Have you ever really stopped to think about one of the most incredible things we all do as humans? How we learn to talk. It feels like magic, right? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and dive into the foundations of language acquisition. Seriously, think about it for a second. How did you learn to talk? You went from making little noises to arguing about bedtime, and the wild part is you probably have zero memory of how you did it. It just sort of happened. But how? What's actually going on in our brains? And this is where things get really fascinating. You've got a toddler, right? They're just soaking up language like a sponge. No lessons, no stress. Then you have an adult, maybe it's you, with flashcards and grammar books, really struggling to learn a new language. Why is it so easy for a kid and can be so hard for us? Well, the secret to solving that paradox comes down to one really important idea: the difference between acquiring language and learning one. Yeah, they sound like the same thing, but to your brain, they are completely different worlds. So let's break these two down. On one side, you've got acquisition. This is subconscious, it's natural, it's all about understanding the meaning of what's being said. It's exactly how you picked up your first language as a baby. Then, on the other side, there's learning. This is the conscious, formal stuff. It's focused on rules and grammar. Think about any language class you've ever taken. That's learning. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're in a classroom. The teacher is telling this amazing story, maybe an old legend. They're not translating anything. Instead, they're using these huge, colorful pictures, making big, dramatic gestures, and doing funny voices for all the characters. The students are totally hooked, just trying to figure out what happens next in the story. That, right there, is acquisition. See, the focus isn't on grammar rules at all. It's on something linguists call comprehensible input. That's a fancy way of saying you're getting language you can basically understand from the context, the pictures, the gestures, even if you don't know every single word. The students are absorbing the language without even trying because they're wrapped up in the story. Okay, now picture a totally different classroom. The teacher's up at the whiteboard, drawing diagrams and explaining a grammar rule. Something like, okay, everyone, if the subject is singular, the verb gets an S. Then students are called up to the board to do drills, filling in the blanks on sentences. And that is learning. It's a very conscious effort, right? You have to understand the rule, remember the rule, and then apply the rule. It's all about explicit instruction and practice. Now, both of these methods have their place, for sure, but they make your brain work in completely different ways. So, okay, we get it. There's acquiring and there's learning. But this just opens up an even bigger question, one that scientists and thinkers have been debating for ages. How does our brain actually do this? How does it all work? To even begin to answer that, we have to look at the work of four absolute giants in this field. We're talking about Noam Chomsky, B.F. Skinner, Jean Piaget, and Lev Vygotsky. Each one of them came up with a really powerful and sometimes totally conflicting idea about how we get language. All right, first up is Noam Chomsky. He's firmly on Team Nature. His big idea, the innatist theory, is that we are literally born ready for language. He proposed that we have something called a language acquisition device, hardwired into our brains. It's like we come with the basic software for grammar, pre-installed, and it just needs to be activated by hearing a language spoken around us. And then, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you've got B.F. Skinner. He was all about nurture. His behaviorist theory says language isn't special, it's just another behavior we learn. We imitate what we hear our parents say, and when we say it right, we get positive reinforcement. A smile, a hug, getting the cookie we ask for. Over time, that becomes a habit. And this really sets up the classic debate, doesn't it? Nature versus nurture. Is language this innate, biological blueprint we're all born with, like Chomsky said? Or is it something we build from the ground up, piece by piece, through imitation and rewards from our environment, like Skinner believed? But wait, there are other ideas too. Jean Piaget came along with a different take. For him, language is all tied up with our general brain development. He argued that you have to understand a concept before you can have the words for it. So a baby can't really use the word gone until their brain understands that objects still exist even when they can't see them. So for Piaget, thinking comes first and language follows. And finally, there's Lev Vygotsky, who said, hey everyone, you're forgetting the most important part: other people. He argued that language is fundamentally social. It's a gift we get from our community. We learn it by interacting with our parents, teachers, and friends. For Vygotsky, language isn't just born inside our heads. It's born out of culture and social connection. Okay, wow. So we've got these huge, competing theories battling it out.
But you might be thinking, why does any of this actually matter outside of a college classroom? Well, it matters a ton because these very ideas have a direct impact on how we teach and how we learn languages every single day.
So, how does this all play out in the real world? Well, these theories influence literally everything: how teachers design their lessons, whether the class focuses more on speaking fluently or having perfect grammar, the whole philosophy behind teaching. This stuff isn't just academic theory, it's incredibly practical.
And you can see these ideas in action everywhere. A classroom that's all about telling stories and having great conversations, that's got Chomsky's fingerprints all over it. A class that uses a lot of repetition and drills, that's taking a page from Skinner. When a teacher makes sure the activities are right for the student's age, that's Piaget. And anytime you do group work or partner activities, you can thank Vygotsky.
So, what's the big takeaway here? It's that the best teaching doesn't just pick one theory and run with it. The most effective classrooms actually create a balance. They blend these ideas together. You need that meaningful exposure that Chomsky talked about. You absolutely need the social interaction from Vygotsky. And yeah, sometimes you even need that structured practice from Skinner. And so that brings us to one last question, and this one's for you. I want you to think about your own language journey. Maybe it was your first language or a second one you tried to pick up. Was it mostly a process of just soaking it in, of subconscious absorption? Or was it a conscious effort, full of study and rules? Were you acquiring or were you learning? The answer might just tell you a whole lot about your own story with words.